Many youngsters have taken to the surf this summer, hoping to catch that perfect wave. But in the excitement of big waves and a new board, some forget common sense. Uneducated and unskilled board riders have been responsible for several emergencies on our beaches. But experts say a few simple lessons can make surfing a lot safer.
We can teach them what actually creates a rip, as I said, how to actually get out of one if you do get caught in one. And I think that once they stop panicking, then they can really think straight, and that's when we can fix that problem.
Clinics are being held for boys and girls over summer, focusing not just on surfing tips but water and sun safety as well. Parents are urged to keep an eye out during the holiday season.
You don't just go out and buy a bodyboard or a surfboard, give it to Junior, take him to a big surf and throw him in the deep end and say, show us what you can do.
Day 6 of the championships this afternoon, and already the titles have unearthed plenty of young talent.
There's a lot of juniors and you can see them day by day, they're improving. So you get a whole season's worth of sailing in a week.
Dwarfed by the bigger boats enjoying an afternoon cruise, the 200-strong fleet prepared for Heat 4 of the championships. The group then sent off on the 7 nautical mile course. The senior one-ups were first away. Young South Queenslander Kyle Robson, the title leader. After a 4th and 2 firsts in the opening 3 heats, he was again trying to keep out of reach. With the wind gusting at little more than 8 knots in the early stages, the race was there for the taking. Tactics again playing a crucial role in the 1 kilometre stretch to the first buoy. On arrival, Andrew Fee and Hot Stuff was first to turn, but when he touched the mark and was forced to make a 360-degree penalty turn, it opened the way for Sydney's Robert Persson and Time and Tide.
Six months ago, the call went out for historical memorabilia. Now this storeroom is filled with mementos from retirees, the community and current employees. Old photos, certificates and pay ledgers which trace the sometimes controversial history of the company.
Safety has been a real issue. You know, some of the old photographs where you look at the workers in the old days, like, geez, fancy working like that today.
And while the plant has shifted its focus over the past 100 years from a lead smelter to producing sulfuric acid, fertiliser and cement, then back to lead and zinc, it's perhaps the changing attitudes towards the environment and the community which has been the most dramatic.
In our research we have found different attitudes by the company, different attitudes by the community, and I think in the past 20 years probably environmental issues and health issues have been to the fore.
A pictorial history of the plant will be launched in February, Pasminco planning a special event every 6 weeks for the rest of the year, including an open day in March. Sarah Griffiths, NBN News. The recently introduced levy means everyone, local residents as well as contractors, must pay $4 per tonne to dispose of rubbish at the region's tips. But it's not the actual cost which is concerning councils.
It's being paid by residents of this city, and surely that money should come back and be spent in the city area.
The initiative effectively sees the councils acting as collecting agencies, passing on funds raised to the state government, which is expecting to raise around $30 million for a broad range of environmental issues. While some of this money will be redistributed to regional waste boards, Mr Taylor believes the money should be spent on local programs.
We've got our worm farm projects going, our bottle banks, curbside recycling is going to start on a Hunter regional basis, and the money should be coming back to this area to further enhance those projects.
Meanwhile, the close-knit community of Summerland Point and Gwandala near the Central Coast is celebrating its first Tidy Town Award. Every day, this dedicated group of volunteers combs this 7-kilometre stretch of road for dumped rubbish.
It was such a shame to see the litter that was being spread along the road, and so we just decided we would start cleaning it up.
I do it because I care about where I live, and it's such a beautiful area, and I think it should stay that way.
Sarah Griffiths, NBN News.
With an 11-win, 29-loss record, the Eagles were expected to do it tough. On top of that, they'd also lost star players Cameron Hardy and Sam Grant to college baseball in the States. The early signs weren't good, with Sydney up 3-0, but when Fletcher Bates smashed a 2-base hit, teammate Mark Gibbons then did enough to bring him home. It was the Eagles' first run of the night, but as darkness fell, there were plenty more to come. A remarkable comeback at the bottom of the fourth, and the Eagles took the lead before a homeside error opened the way for the visitors to equalise. An early entrance for relief pitcher Leighton Wingrove, it couldn't have been more timely. Wingrove shut down the Blues in a faultless display from the mound, his normal pace mixed with off-speed pitching and curveballs as the Eagles kept the match in their control. The visitors ended up leaving 13 runners on base over the 9 innings, the locals only 6, and that was the telling factor in the home side's 9-6 victory. The series winds up tonight with 2 7-innings games. After taking the opening match of the 3-game series, the Hunter Eagles needed to win only 1 game to cause an upset over the Sydney Blues, and the locals started where they left off on Friday. Hunter exploded to score 5 runs in the 3rd inning, keeping Sydney scoreless. But the visitors replied. 2 runs in the 4th, 1 in the 6th and 4 in the 7th put the Blues on top. Crisis talks for the Eagles, but the change of pitcher failed to change the flow of the match. Sydney went on to win both games for a 2-1 series victory.
Workers continued to load the highly flammable substance today despite last night's drama.
It could have been burning there for some days out at sea, and then finally got to the surface, and then you would have a surface area fire and also a dust explosion.
4 tonnes of cotton meal ignited just after 4 this morning in one of the ship's holds. The smouldering substance had to be scraped from the bulk carrier and transferred into containers. Firefighters examined the carrier today, taking samples of the grain-based animal food supplement. Early investigations suggest water may have seeped into the ship's hold.
You need the right conditions and the right temperature with the water, and then you can have spontaneous combustion, and then the application of oxygen, you will have fire.
Investigations will continue until the ship is given the all-clear to leave Newcastle Harbour. Meanwhile, firefighters were also kept busy at the BHP plant overnight. 2 tankers leaked 40,000 litres of highly toxic benzol onto the road.
It was a very volatile situation for some time. The fire brigade stayed throughout the night.
Firefighters covered the area with foam to reduce the risk of explosion. No one was injured during the spill. Vanessa Spark, NBN News.
The presentations took place at the Royal Festival Hall, with 45 young ballet dancers from 12 different countries vying for the title. Awards like the gold medal do not come lightly. For the previous 2 years, the judges refused to bestow the prize. But this year, Veronica captivated the panel. An impromptu encore of her Black Swan solo followed for the cameras.
I never thought that I would win gold. I just came here to just have fun and enjoy myself, and came out with this, so I'm just really excited.
Veronica had been taught by her mother from the age of 4 at the Murray Walton Barn Dance Academy in Newcastle. The school can now boast 2 gold medalists, the other being Jane Finney, now leading soloist with the Australian Ballet. And this year, Australia proved its ballet prowess, with 2 other young Aussies winning silver medals.
I think it's because the standard in Australia is really high, and we have to look up to that and work towards that, and that's why it pushes us along to make that standard.
Veronica will now enjoy a family holiday before resuming her studies at the Australian Ballet School in Melbourne next month.
The for sale sign will go up next month on 1,100 hectares of land near Pindima at Port Stephens. 18 months ago, the owner, Boral Limited, offered the 2 governments first option on buying the land around Fame Cove and Carrington. The area will now be advertised internationally for its potential as a marina resort development. Conservationists have been calling for the land to be preserved for both its natural and heritage values. In 1994, the state and federal governments bought 40 hectares in Fame Cove.
People from all walks of life can enjoy this environment and benefit from the retention of it in its natural state.
The National Parks and Wildlife Service has assessed the remaining Boral-owned land as having significant conservation value. During the 1800s, pioneer settlers established a farming community. In later years, the area was earmarked for a naval base, an oil refinery and a city. None of the proposals eventuated. As well as traces of white settlement, a number of significant Aboriginal sites and artefacts have been identified in the area.
It's probably been the spirit of the Gringide people that has probably saved this corner from the developers' bulldozers for so long. You know, there's a lingering spirit there, and I think it is one of the things that saved it. And I think it's now time for our spirit to mingle with those people and to make sure that it's kept forever.
Like thousands across the state, students gathered early at the Hamilton Mail Exchange to put an end to 2 months of anxious waiting. For 10 students, the wait ended yesterday with good news. Along with Surab Kamur, James McLeod shared top local honours with a TER of 99.95. Unlike most, he achieved the score not by studying pure sciences and maths, but by excelling in subjects such as economics.
I went into the social sciences area, a lot of essay writing and those sort of subjects, and fortunately I was good at that, so I went that way. And I guess it shows that, you do what you're good at and it can pay off for you.
In keeping with the rest of the state, girls dominated results with 7 of the top 10 scores. The top girl was Kate Webber with 99.85. She's now hoping for a place at Newcastle University to study medicine.
I'd always hoped to do pretty well, but you can't really be prepared for something like that.
Not surprisingly, Merewether High, the Hunter's only selective school, produced 6 of the top 10 students in the region, 1 more than last year.
It's about in line with what we thought. They've been very focused, constantly hard-working this year, and we thought they'd do well.
At St Francis Xavier High at Hamilton, students compared scores over a barbecue and a can of Coke. For some, though, whose scores fell short of expectations, it was off to the Special Careers Advisory Centres to reassess options. Students have until Saturday to alter university preferences. Enrolments for most TAFE courses close on Friday. Phil Hind, NBN News. The owners of this Delmer Street home had only been absent for 10 minutes. The thief used a bin to climb through an open window in the carport. He was disturbed as he ransacked upstairs bedrooms and made his escape through a sliding glass door at the rear balcony. This break-in was the latest in a growing number of robberies in the Newcastle district, where homeowners have made the job easy pickings for burglars.
Last weekend we had 8 break-in and enter offences reported to Newcastle Police, and at least half these incidents involve the thieves gaining entry to the premises through an unlocked window or door.
It's not a simple case of leaving your home unlocked and unattended. Robbers are becoming increasingly brazen. Police are advising to make sure the front of the house is secure even if people are at home.
In some cases, the people have been in their backyards and the thieves have just managed to get in a few minutes and taken their stuff and gone.
Police are advising people in the Newcastle district to think of installing deadlocks and even alarms, but more importantly, to use them once installed.
This is the equipment police say was used to cultivate the crop. The elaborate hydroponic set including a drip system, lamps, fans and garden chemicals.
328 plants with a potential street value of over $600,000.
A 24-year-old man has been charged with 5 drug offences. He's been bailed to appear in Wallsend Local Court on January 14. Meanwhile, Australian Customs says Sunday's hashish haul at Port Stephens is the country's biggest drug bust. 10 tonnes of cannabis resin worth $77 million was seized in a joint operation by Australian Customs and the Federal Police. 3 men have been arrested and will appear in Sydney Central Court next Monday.
The island Mercy has been travelling on goodwill missions to islands throughout the South Pacific since 1990, delivering much-needed medical supplies and treatment.
The role of the ship is where we take medical and optical and dental plus self-sufficiency programs to third world South Pacific islands. They're islands where they just don't have any medical facilities of any description.
Volunteers have been forced to work in a small treatment room, but increased demand for the ship's services has led to plans for a full operating theatre. It will be built in the bow section of the ship.
And then we'll be able to have 2 beds, plus also a little recovery room as well, so we can be doing those 3 forms of medical, optical and dental.
The project is expected to cost about $80,000, and Youth with a Mission, which runs the ship, is appealing to the community for help.
We're reaching out to the people of Hunter Valley to support us, either financially or by coming to help us in labour or giving us materials.
The operating theatre should be completed by March. Emma Siossian, NBN News.
It's every hospital's worst nightmare. The sick and infirm trapped as choking smoke fills a first-floor surgical ward. However, these patients were never in any real danger. The smoke supplied by the fire brigade and a smoke machine. While it was only an exercise, it was serious for those involved.
The fire in itself is a danger, but it's a very, very low percentage of that causes actual fatalities. It's the toxicity of the smoke that causes the damage, the carbon monoxide in fact.
From within the thick pall of smoke, patients were guided and even dragged from harm's way. While the fire brigade was pleased with the exercise, there's always room for improvement.
Nobody utilised the fire stairs down there because no doubt the drill is get them out past the fire doors, but use common sense.
On the whole, the hospital was happy.
We had 12 patients in there and about 6 rescuers, so I thought it went down okay, probably 2 minutes, I think.
While it was a valuable exercise, training staff at Belmont Hospital hope the emergency never arises. Phil Hind, NBN News.
Some time ago, Lake Macquarie yachtsman Alan Neighbour also found himself donning a survival suit and working in freezing water to repair a damaged ocean racer. Competing in the 1994-95 BOC Solo Around the World race, his boat suffered a damaged rudder and began taking water. He used the same type of suit that saved the life of French yachtsman Thierry Dubois.
Because obviously they were in extreme situations. It was very cold, the water temperature is just zapping to your body physically, and they would have had to draw on all their strength and adrenaline that their body could pump up just to keep them going, I think.
Watching TV coverage of the rescued yachtsman's arrival in Fremantle, Alan had great praise for the yachtsman and the Navy.
Right now they'd have to be the most experienced rescue service in the world, and they've done everyone proud, I think.
To be able to get down there and just pluck those fellows out of the sea 3,000 kilometres away and find them and pick them up, it's just a miracle.
81-year-old blue water skipper Albie Bergen, also of Lake Macquarie, is preparing his yacht Alstar for another round of ocean racing. Neither Alan nor Albie put off by the problems which beset the two rescued skippers.
I'd love to be out there, and I would like to do this particular race.
From uncertainty to security in a matter of months. A government guarantee to provide sawmillers with logs for the next 5 years. Newells Creek Timber and Relf & Sons in Bulahdelah are among 8 sawmills in the state to be offered the deal.
We know we've got logs for 5 years and then another 5 years, you know. You used to take it year by year, but yeah, it definitely looks good.
The move has generated new confidence in the small town of Bulahdelah, a community still recovering from the effect of last year's cuts to the logging industry.
With this news, I think the smiles will go back on the faces and money will start to come back into the community.
But the government's track record has left others doubting.
I'm a bit sceptical about the whole thing. I don't think the government will make all this thing work.
While the government has kept its promise so far, it's come at a price. Sawmillers will only be supplied with 50% of their last year's quota. But it's an offer they couldn't refuse.
Everyone pulls together, the industry's got a good chance. It's just a matter of hanging in there and going along with whatever the marketplace needs us to do.
A further 5-year supply of logs will be offered by the state government if the mills start producing value-added timber products. Vanessa Spark, NBN News.
And education at Newcastle University now costs money even before you get out of your car.
Up to $86 for students, $118 for staff in specified staff parking areas, and $236 for staff who have designated parking areas.
The university says federal budget cuts have parked it into a corner. It must find ways to raise money for the administration, maintenance and security of car parks, or drain funds from university courses.
Also, we would like to, at some stage, develop further parking facilities which would be more environmentally friendly, particularly multi-storey car parks.
But the long-term goal is a reduction in the number of students driving to classes.
Inducing students to use public transport wherever possible. We've got a train station, buses, using bicycles, getting bike paths developed, so we're hoping that there may be some shifts in that area.
But there is a concern the fees will merely drive cars out of the campus and onto neighbouring streets. Newcastle Council has now ordered the university to undertake a study on the effect the charges will have on surrounding suburbs. The new charges will be introduced in March. But for last year's students, the fees are the least of their problems. Lecturers today voted to continue withholding exam results in protest over working conditions. Richard O'Leary, NBN News.
A lunchtime drive along the Pindima Road turned into a serious rescue operation for the two teenage occupants. The driver lost control on the dirt track. His 16-year-old male passenger was thrown from the rolling vehicle. Pinned under the car by his arm, the youth spent an agonising hour as rescue crews worked to free him. Paramedics stabilised the patient before he was airlifted to the John Hunter Hospital, suffering a broken arm and chest injuries. The driver escaped with only minor injuries. Further south, another single vehicle accident delayed early morning traffic on the Pacific Highway north of Raymond Terrace after a laden semi-trailer overturned. Police say the driver, who was travelling south, lost control of his rig. The semi, carrying a load of general freight, blocked one lane of the highway for several hours. The driver was taken to the Mater Hospital, suffering minor injuries.
From stunning photos of animals in Africa to the simple beauty of a bunch of wild poppies, the exhibition takes viewers on a journey through some of the world's most remote and beautiful places, offering glimpses of rare and endangered wildlife. The exhibition is a collection of the best works entered in an international photography competition run by the BBC Wildlife magazine and History Museum in London. It features a prize-winning photo by British photographer Cherry Alexander, depicting the mystical blue icebergs of the Antarctic. The photos will remain on display at the Newcastle Region Library until February 16th. Emma Ossian, NBN News. Developer Richard Owens yesterday announced details of the development, outlining plans to build an 8-storey hotel on his land bounded by Argyle Street, Centenary Road, Wharf Road and the railway line. The development would be a joint venture with a property trust and employ 150 full and part-time staff. But Newcastle Council has failed to accept the development application, saying it needs extra information, including traffic reports and a heritage report.
We've asked for some more information with respect to the precinct and how the building will fit with other buildings within the city area.
Despite the setback, the developers are confident the application will eventually be approved.
It's not as though they've rejected the application, it's just that they've asked for some more information.
Meanwhile, the Honeysuckle development has plans to build a hotel on a site opposite the proposed $40 million development on foreshore land occupied by the Newcastle Fishermen's Co-op. Richard Owens says that land should remain open to public use, allowing full access to the harbour.
We believe very strongly that this very narrow piece of land should not be alienated from the public, that it should be an extension of the foreshore down to the cove that Honeysuckle are proposing and beyond.
Emma Ossian, NBN News.
The Volunteer Rescue Squad is celebrating 21 years on the Central Coast, and like any 21st birthday celebration, there was a special gift. 2 new rescue vehicles, just commissioned and ready for action. The trucks are replacing 2 outdated models, the upgrade necessary to cope with the growing demands on the group.
Well, it'll certainly mean a more efficient service. We've got more modern vehicles which are more reliable, and it certainly enhance our rescue capabilities to the community.
A $60,000 interest-free loan from Wyong Council and a $2,500 government grant helped fund the purchase, a further $70,000 raised by the community.
For every 1 hour of rescue, I would say we'd probably do 6 hours of fundraising.
There are 20 members who help run the centre in Rose Street, 24 hours a day, 7 days a week. A sacrifice they say is all about giving back to the community.
It does take a fair commitment in life. It's a change of lifestyle, actually, if you want to do rescue. And if you have, if you like a drink or anything like that, well, you've got to put that to one side.
Sarah Griffiths, NBN News.